Hello and welcome to Wild Heart Yoga Holistic Healing for today's full body yin class. We are going to begin today seated on our heels at the back of our mat. And when you're ready, inhale as you take a big sweep up with the arms, pointing the index fingers up toward the sky. Then exhale as you begin to walk your fingertips toward the end of your mat, finding your way to child's pose. Once you're in your child's pose, begin just taking a few slow, deep breaths in through the nose and exhaling like a heavy sigh from the back of the throat. And while you get settled in here, just go ahead and set your intention for today's practice, deciding what you want to get out of this, what you want your focus to be as we go throughout today's class. Take one more deep inhale here, and as you exhale, begin to round up through cat pose. Lead with the hips as you roll back to child's pose. A few times like this, moving with the speed of your breath, inhaling as you round forward, exhaling as you lead with the hips, rolling back. Head following last here, completing that wave-like motion with the body. Go ahead and round forward one more time, then sink your way back to child's pose. This time, walk your fingertips over to the right side of your mat, deepening this stretch through the shoulder, through the side body. If you want to get even a little bit more of a stretch out of this, feel free to shift your hips towards the left side of your feet. As you're here, continue breathing deeply, being mindful of how your body's feeling as we get started today. Just taking notice of any areas of tension that you notice. With every inhale, imagining breathing in the oxygen to those areas of tension and stiffness. With every exhale, I want you to imagine that tension melting away. One more deep breath on this side. And as you exhale, walk the fingers over towards the left side of the mat now. Continuing to connect that breath here. Many times when we feel a lot of stiffness or tension, our instinct is to want to hold our breaths, and that actually makes us more tense and less able to relax our muscles. So that is why the breath is so important, especially with yin yoga, as we're trying to target some of the deepest layers of connective tissue and fascia. So especially if we get in poses where they feel pretty intense and really uncomfortable and you feel that urge to come out, that's when I'd really encourage you to focus back on that breath, trying to breathe through the discomfort. This is not only a great way to help us get a deeper release from our muscles, but also a great way to increase our threshold for distress tolerance. This is really great for anyone who struggles with anxiety to practice, because it is just another state of fight or flight that our body is going into, so we can learn to breathe through and regulate our body through this type of discomfort. All right, make your way back to tabletop, then lead with the hips as you press your way back to down dog. Let's begin just walking out our dog here, waking up the hamstrings and the calves a bit. Good. Inhale as you bring the right leg up for three-legged dog, then step all the way through to the front of your mat, lowering the left knee, coming into our low lunge. Here I want you to think about tucking those hips forward, pulling that belly button to the spine, so we're not having a big arch in our low back here. And then go ahead and press the hips forward. Plant your right fingertips on the mat and reach over with your left arm and back slightly. So we're getting a deep stretch through the side body, the hip, and the psoas here. Each exhale, try to reach over a little bit further. Feel free to play around with the positioning of your upper body. Also, if you need to lean back a little more or forward, figuring out where the areas of tension are for you. You may even want to maybe take a few micro movements here, shifting side to side slightly or waving your upper body back and forth. This is meant to be a pretty experimental process, figuring out what your body needs uniquely. You're doing great. Just about 30 more seconds on this side. Keep breathing through it. Keep being mindful. One more breath. And as you exhale, go ahead and plant the hands to the mat, making your way to a plank, and then lower yourself down to your belly. We're going to take our Sphinx pose here, so go ahead and place your arms at a 90-degree angle out ahead of you. If you want to take this a bit further, you can extend the elbows up. But we will be here for a little bit, so this may be a little too intense for some of you today, so take whichever variation feels best to you. If you need to switch back and forth, that's also fine. For some people, this pose may not feel like it is doing a whole lot, but this is actually a really great posture to take to counter a lot of the slumped sitting we do throughout the day or rounded forward shoulders, especially when we hold it for an extended period of time like we are right now. Another thing to be mindful of while we're here is making sure your neck is tall and long, maybe imagining a string pulling up from your head into the sky. Shoulder blades are pulled down and back, not squeezing too hard, but just being aware of our alignment. We're almost there, stick with it. Just a few more breaths. And exhale as you lower your chest back down to the mat. Press yourself back to tabletop and lead with the hips as you make your way back to down dog. Inhale, right leg up, and let's take some hip circles. Making the circle as big or as small as feels good for you. Lubricating those hip joints. Inhale, back to three-legged dog. And as you exhale, bring that right leg up toward the front of the mat, parallel to the front of the mat for pigeon pose. If your shin doesn't stay parallel to the front of the mat, that is perfectly fine. For many of us, including myself, that is quite difficult. So if your foot angles in closer towards your hip, then that's totally acceptable for this pose. As we get settled in here and adjusted to this, feel free to stay sitting up, keeping the spine tall and long, focusing on the positioning of your hips here. But whenever you're ready, feel free to lower yourself down, maybe to your elbows, or perhaps all the way to your belly. If you're sitting up a little high here today and it feels hard to keep both those hips grounded on the mat, you can try using maybe a block or a stack of books or a pillow or something to place under your hips to make it a little bit easier for you today. Having a pillow or a bolster to lay your chest on is another modification that you could also do in this pose. Now, this is one of those poses that can be a bit intense for some of us, especially if you do a lot of running or hiking or sitting a lot and just have some really tight hips. So this is where I want to remind you to focus on that breathing, inhaling oxygen to those areas of tension, exhaling away the stiffness. Just one more deep breath here. Good, and release. Go ahead and sit back up. Keep that right leg where it's at and swing around your left leg, stacking the knees on top of one another here as we make our way into our shoelace. And I want you to bring your left elbow over the right elbow, interlacing the hands also. Thumbs are at about forehead level. This is our eagle arms. So while we're here, we are actively pressing those arms and pulling away for this push-pull sensation that's creating an opening in our upper back. Feel free to take a few micro movements here again, maybe waving the chest up and down slightly, just feeling how this changes the sensation. Maybe you want to add a couple head rolls, releasing some tension from the neck, the shoulders. Good. Go ahead and release the arms now. And if you're able, go ahead and fold your chest over those legs. This is taking us a bit deeper into our hips here. So if you're having difficulty with this today, or maybe even having trouble just stacking those knees, then stay sitting up and just work on pressing that top knee down. This can be another intense pose, so keep breathing through it. We're almost there. Awesome job, you made it. Go ahead and lift the chest back up, untwist yourself, making your way back to plank. And take a chaturanga, inhale for up dog, rocking the hips side to side. Then I want you to dip the hips to the left, looking over your right shoulder. Thighs are just hovering above the mat here. And then go ahead and take it to the other side real quick. Good, now lead with the hips as you press your way back to down dog. Inhale, left leg goes up for three-legged dog, then step through to the front of the mat, lowering the right leg to the mat. Again, think about pushing those hips forward, tucking that belly button into the spine, then allowing the hips to sink forward and low. Left fingertips on the mat, and reach the right arm over. We're trying to reach over and back slightly, so this is taking us more into the hips and the psoas, as well as the side body. If this is hard for you to reach this far to the ground, you can also use a block here or a stack of books or whatever else to place your hand on. One more minute here. You're doing great. Keep breathing through it. One more deep inhale. and exhale. Placing the hands back to the mat and making your way down to your belly again. We're going to take our Sphinx pose once more. So arms at the 90-degree angle by your sides. And if you want to take it further, again, you can extend those elbows straight. Release. Now plant your hands to the edges of your mat and let's take a few cobra waves. So here we're using our back muscles as we lift the chest, peeling it up from the mat, head following last. Glutes are relaxed as we do this. This is supposed to be mainly the back muscles engaging to lift ourselves up. Good, now tuck the toes. Once more, lead with the hips, finding your down dog again. Inhale, left leg goes up for three-legged dog, and begin taking your hip circles in the forward direction. One last circle. Make your way to three-legged dog again, and then step through, coming into our pigeon pose. So again, thinking about keeping that left shin parallel to the front of the mat. But of course, as I said earlier, for many of us that is difficult to do, so if your leg is more angled in towards you, perfectly fine. And again, as we're sitting up here, thinking about tucking those hips forward so that we don't have this arch in the low back. Pulling that belly button into your spine. If you're ready, you can go ahead and lower yourself down to the mat again, making your way either to your elbows or all the way down to your belly. And try to find stillness here. Every exhale, allowing your body to just sink into the mat a bit further. Again, if this is feeling intense, if you're feeling that urge to come out of this pose, tune into that breath. Focus on that deep inhale through the nose and that exhale, sigh from the back of the throat. This is called our ujjayi breathing or our giant breathing. The breath is like a slow, long inhale through the nose, followed by a full exhale from the back of the throat. All right, go ahead and make your way back up, keeping that left leg where it's at, swinging the right leg around, stacking the knees for our shoelace. This time, right elbow is coming over top of the left elbow, interlacing those hands. And again, we're actively pushing and pulling the arms together and apart here. Noticing how that changes the sensation and the stretch in the upper back and the shoulders. Just check in with the positioning of your arms, making sure your thumbs are around your forehead level. And once again, you can play around here if you want, maybe waving the chest down slightly, or perhaps side to side. All right, take one more deep breath here. As you exhale, release the arms. Go ahead and fold the chest over the legs, finding stillness here. Again, breathing through the discomfort. We're almost to the end of our practice today, so stick with it. You're doing great. Great job. Slowly make your way back up now. Unwind the legs, scoot down on your mat, making your way to your back with the soles of your feet together, knees falling out to the side for our final pose today, our Supta Baddha Konasana. You can have your arms out to your side, palms facing up toward the sky, or perhaps one hand on the belly and one on the chest. Just noticing the breath, the heartbeat. While you're here, see if you can find an even deeper state of relaxation, soaking in this final resting pose. And as you're here, just take note of how you feel different than you did at the beginning of this practice, both in body or mind. Being aware of how this practice affects you. If you're ready to finish with me today, take a big reach of the arms overhead, bringing the knees back together. Then find your way to seated at the center of the mat for our final closing breaths together. Inhale as you sweep the arms up toward the sky, palms together. Exhale, bringing the palms to heart center. One more time, inhale, sweeping the arms up, and exhale, hands to prayer, bowing down, thanking yourself for taking the time to honor your mind and body in this way today. Thank you so much for joining me today and for checking out this video. If you enjoyed this class, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button, and also subscribe to stay up to date with all of my latest classes. That is also the best way to help support this channel. Thanks again, friends. I'll see you soon. Namaste.